This is the first meeting of the, quote, 2013 Projects Committee meeting, affectionately known as the 40-year certification meeting. We are due to have some comments by Mr. Clay. Last name escapes me for the moment. Who should be here, as we said, very shortly. We have a few things to do in between, and I want to call the roll to see if we have a quorum, which I believe we do. Paula Anderson, Jackie Davis, Yves Gagne,
Yes, sir.
Nina Spiegel,
Yes.
Richard Young,
Here.
Brenna Johnson, Jerry Miro, Lisa Cockrum,
Here.
Dick Goodhart, Sidney Schulman,
Here.
Linda Wilson,
Here.
Joe Fredericks, Raymond Jean, Raymond, and Charles Fitzpatrick.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, here.
Mark Richmond is here as well. We have a quorum. Now we have the most important part of this meeting as far as I'm concerned, which is we have to elect a secretary whose primary job will be to keep minutes of these august things as we go along. Will anyone volunteer to be secretary of this committee?
Absolutely not.
Linda denies the opportunity. How about anybody else? Are we to function without a secretary? All right. We'll work on this problem at a later date.
Someone's got to take notes though.
Francis, where are you? Don't answer the question.
Linda.
No, absolutely not.
No, but can you just take the notes for tonight?
No,
No.
I'm taking a recording. Is that okay?
Yeah, fine with me. Then you could be secretary with that machine.
No, baby.
No, you can't do that.
I can't spell with beans.
Well, be that as it may, it has been stated that this will probably be one of the more important committees that International Village has, at least for a few months, for everyone to find out what is going on. There is a as I've tried to find out, there is a considerable amount of ignorance of what this committee is doing, how it's supposed to do things, and that spreads from the president of the committee or the chairman of the committee all the way down the line. So we have a lot of learning to do together. To clear the air, because so many of you, as I've spoken to, haven't got any concept of what this is all about. And most people think this is a state-mandated thing, which is not true at all. It's a county-wide thing. The two counties in Florida that have this kind of process are Dade, which has had it for some time, and Broward, which has only had it for 6 years. I'm going, at this point, I think, you ready?
Yeah, just start here.
At this point, I want to turn this over to Jason, who will introduce our speaker, who will be the main focus for this particular committee meeting. And when he's done, we'll all be able to ask him as many questions as he has the ability to stay here for. Without further ado, Mr. Levy.
Thank you. I did have to leave to go let Mr. Parker into the community. Did you go through the roll call, quorum, all that stuff? And
Yes, and we were unable to elect the secretary.
Okay, so you don't have a secretary right now, so
We'll
no
hire
one's
one for
keeping,
$20,000 a sitting, okay?
so you don't have anyone to, at least taking notes for the meeting? That we need to have someone to take notes.
Jason, the meeting is being videotaped, and I think
Yeah.
that would be sufficient.
Okay, fine, as long as everybody agrees to that, then we're okay. Okay, as everybody knows, we've been talking about our assessment coming up for projects, 40-year, all that jazz that we were speaking of over the last 6, 8, 9 months. Now it's obviously coming to a head, and as we promised, we were going to put committees together, we were going to do open forums, we were going to have different town halls to get people's understanding. The purpose of having the meeting tonight is an introduction to the largest portion of our projects, which is the 40-year certification. And I think it is very important for everybody to understand what it is, how it is. If you have questions, you would feel much more comfortable. Thankfully, we were able to have a building official from the city of Sunny Isles Beach in Miami-Dade County, which obviously Miami-Dade and Broward are the two that mandate this 40-year certification. Actually, Mr. Parker comes to us. He actually was on this property watching this structure being built in 1971. So he actually knows this property, which is very interesting. So Mr. Parker will come up. He's going to explain. He has the engineering report that he reviewed over the last 48 hours so that he can become familiar with what we are being told by the engineer so that he can speak intelligently. Okay, so without further ado, he will come up and present, and then we'll take it from there. Mr. Parker.
Hello, everybody. Yes, it's funny how, it's not funny, but it's funny how things come back around in your life. I actually was a
You
union
need a
carpenter.
microphone, sir.
Yeah.
I was a union carpenter working on this project in 1971, okay? I know it was 1971 because it was just before I got married to my wife and I was engaged to her. And all of Inverrary was really coming out of the ground. And I did all the layout and set all the grades for the foundations of these buildings. And I brought 2 or 3 buildings up to like where they were starting to set the trusses on them. And I really enjoyed working here. I really enjoyed the job. I enjoyed I can't remember the name of the construction company that was building it, but I remember the project engineer. At the time, all these buildings were designed for the Alpine type roof, the real high roofs with almost a 12-12 pitch. And the engineer called me into the trailer and he said, "I'm going to put you in charge of setting all the trusses." I said, "Fine." He gave me a crew to work with. And the design of the trusses was that they were to be set, because they were so high, they were to be set in 3 tiers. You had a lower tier, middle tier, then an upper tier. And he said, "Well, we're not going to do it that way." He said, "We're going to attach all 3 tiers together and set these trusses all at one time." I told him that that was not safe. I said, "We can't set these trusses this way. People are going to get hurt." And they fired me from the job. So I went to my union steward and I told him, I said, "They're going to try to get you guys to set these trusses." I said, "You can't really do that. It's not going to work." So I went to my business agent at the, I was a member of 1394 Carpenters Union downtown. And they didn't support it. You know, they said, "Well, if you don't want to do the job, you don't have to do the job. About 5 days later, they set the first building. They set all the trusses at one time. They collapsed. And 2 carpenters were killed. I don't know if you know that about this place. But to me, it was really, because I knew them, and it was really tragic. And I think 1 or 2 of the other carpenters were permanently injured, disabled. So they didn't go on with that design on these trusses. They went with the lower roofs. But it's a tragic story, I just had to tell it. But my experience in South Florida has been since I moved here from, as soon as I got out of the military, from Indiana in 1967. I came here as a union carpenter. I worked on a lot of high-rise structures on the beach. And then this was my first inland job here at Inverrary. And I became a licensed state general contractor in 1975. And in 1983, I went to work for the city of Fort Lauderdale in their building department. And I had a full career at the city of Fort Lauderdale, retired from there in 1999, and went to work for the city of Sunny Isles Beach. I plan on working another 10 years too. I love my job, I love the work, I love the codes, I love the way we protect buildings, people, life safety in the buildings. And that's kind of part of the reason Broward County, well, let me go back in history a little bit. Dade County adopted the 40-year recertification in the mid-70s. They had a couple of buildings collapse. It was from deterioration of the structures, lack of repair. And so they instituted the 40-year recertification inspection. And they require that an architect or an engineer inspect 40-year structures, inspect them for, not for the codes they were built under or anything like that. They just have to inspect them for the structural integrity of the building and the electrical integrity for life safety. And that's been going on in Dade County since the mid-70s. And I overheard you saying that in 2005, the Broward County Board of Rules and Appeals adopted the code to bring it up to Broward County for unsafe structures. I mean, for the 40-year recertification. I have a little bit of history on that for you. This here is what Broward County adopted. This is the instructions for it, and I'll go through that a little bit. Broward County adopted this in 2005 to be enacted in 2006, and it's under provisions from Chapter 1 of the Florida Building Code, Section 110.15. What that is it's an addendum that's part of the, well, let me go back a little bit. The only 2 counties in the state of Florida that have a Board of Rules and Appeals is Broward County and Dade County. These were adopted back in the early 60s. And that's why the South Florida Building Code, if you remember, I don't know how many of you have lived here for all your life, but the South Florida Building Code was always the most stringent building code in the nation. And they were a step above in construction, they used reinforced concrete instead of just filled cells. Your masonry is all reinforced concrete. It's all good structural things. But the Dade and Broward County have the ability to, and they kind of help force the state to adopt the high wind zones for our counties, Broward County and Dade County. That's going to change in a few years when we go to the International Building Code. But right now, it enforces the higher standards for construction. And you can either appreciate that or you don't appreciate it, but that's the way the rules are set. And Broward County Board of Rules and Appeals adopted this, and it's been accepted by the state. So it's part of the Florida Building Code. It's not strictly Dade County Code or Broward County Code. And the way their Broward County system is working, they have a yearly schedule. Okay, until you get on that schedule, you don't have to act on your 40-year recertification. They, in October of every year, they obtain the building data and property appraisers from the property appraiser's office and forward it to each city. You live in Lauderhill. And they send that information to your city, and then the city has, between October and February, they have that time to go ahead and cite your building for the 40-year recertification. Once you get cited, you have 90 days to get your recertification certificate. And what that requires is a Florida engineer or a Florida registered architect to give a structural report and an electrical report. And if that engineer or that finds some any lack of maintenance or need of repair of any part of the structural or electrical, then you then have 180 days to get your permits and to make the necessary repairs for the 40-year recertification. And that code, this section of the code, does not give you any beyond that. It's up to the building official of jurisdiction. So you have to work close with your building official. If he has, when he cites you for the 40-year recertification, you'll have that time period to respond. I've gone over your report here. I've looked at it. I spent a few hours looking at it. A lot of the issues in your building are life safety issues. A lot of my experience has also been with damage assessment. During Hurricane Andrew, I spent 4 months in Dade County running the damage assessment teams, looking at what caused building failures and everything. And a lot of the deterioration you have in your buildings in the event of a strong hurricane would be dangerous for you. Even if you have window protection or what, you have a lot of fascia repair that once that gets into the roof systems, it acts like a balloon. And so all the repair, oh, jeez. Yeah, I just put that on. The report that I read is justified. You know, and I'd like to add, if you go to that section of in the Broward County Code, they talk about the requirements to maintaining your buildings, and this is beyond the 40-year recertification. It states the requirements contained in the Florida Building Code covering the maintenance of buildings shall apply to all buildings and all structures now existing or hereafter erected. All buildings and structures in all parts thereof shall be maintained in a safe condition, and all devices and safeguards that are required by the Florida Building Code shall be maintained in good working order. Electrical wiring apparatus and equipment and installations for light, heat, power, and low voltage systems are required to or regulated by the building code, have to be maintained, even that's without the 40-year recertification. Now what the 40-year recertification will bring out is that you do need these repairs. This engineering report brings that out. So when you address those issues, if you don't get cited this year, you'll be ready for, these are issues that I feel that you should probably address. You have the roofing system, you probably have some roofing systems that need repaired or replaced. You have a lot of issues on these buildings. You got 9 buildings here?
11,
11.
Well, 12 with the,
With this clubhouse, yes, sir.
Excuse me, could you be a little bit more specific for those of us who do not have the actual report? Could you just speak in layman's term as to specifically what has got to be done based on the engineer report so we can better understand?
Oh, I can be a little bit more specific. You have a lot of spalling concrete. You have a lot of rotted wood in the roof systems. You have cracked stucco. You have spalling systems where the concrete needs to be repaired, and that could be that is a dangerous situation. I deal a lot with high-rises in Sunny Isles Beach, and we have all of our older high-rises. Most of them are now going through their 40-year recertification, and it's the spalling concrete on the beaches is really bad. But I noticed in the report here you have a lot of spalling concrete too.
What does falling mean?
Spalling is a process that all the concrete, your slabs and everything, have reinforcing rods in them, and those reinforcing rods gets moisture in them, and it starts rusting and it swells, and that pops the concrete out, and you have a lot of that going on.
did you find that in the roofs?
Not in your roofs, because your roofs are all truss roofs. But you do, and the report does indicate a lot of rotted wood up there.
And are we on the schedule yet?
I checked with the Broward County Board of Rules and Appeals, and I don't see you on the schedule yet.
You mentioned an October through February timeframe.
Right, that's when they go to the tax assessor's office and get the reports for who's at the 40-year stage.
Okay, so that report gets to each city.
They send that report to each city,
Okay.
yes, sir.
So we're beyond February. How long does the city of Lauderhill have to send the notices to the properties?
They're supposed to have them out by February, okay? I called your building official today, and I don't think you're on the report, because I looked at the Broward County report, but he hasn't sent them out yet. But he said he's gonna be sending them out, but he doesn't think that you're on the list either, so.
So,
That'll be next year before we get on the list, or?
Well, if you're not on the list now, it'll probably be in October, yeah. I do know this, the story I told you is the truth, and because it left a big impact on me, and it was 1971 when they were bringing these buildings out of the ground. So I don't know when they got their COs, and the tax assessor's office, they're supposed to use the date of the CO, or certificate of occupancy. I think you were at one time in an apartment, and you became a condominium at some time, probably somewhere around the
80.
late 80, 1980. They might, I'm not sure where they're gonna show you, but that's something you have to deal with the building department with.
Right. So it's possible we could qualify for the 40-year recertification in 2020.
That's
If it was
possible. I
1980.
can't say it's not. That's something you have to deal with your local building official with, your building department.
One more question. Are we covered, in case a hurricane would come and blow a roof off? We're probably covered for that, right?
Not here. They took this building off the insurance.
You mean the
The
clubhouse?
clubhouse is not insured.
I meant one of the condos.
Yeah.
Well, typically, when you get damage, okay, you have your insurance coverage and everything. That's not an exact. I know that when I was doing damage assessment, the insurance companies were in looking at, I've done damage assessment for Hurricane Andrew, I've done damage assessment for Hurricane Charlie, and I've spent a lot of time up in Alabama and Mississippi for Hurricane Katrina, which was the saddest thing I ever saw. But you can tell when you go in there and you do your assessments where, in many cases, where the failure starts. And it's from rotted roofing, rotted fascia. In Miami, you had a lot of ceilings that were just blown in and came down on people because of the ballooning effect.
These are places that are really on the ocean though, right?
No.
No?
Look at Country Walk. That was further inland than your inland during Hurricane Andrew. I mean, almost all of those houses failed.
Andrew was category 5?
Yes. They never admitted that until later on in
Right.
time. But yes, it was a category 5.
I'd like to clarify the timing issue. If I understand correctly, it's now March. If we have not received the 40-year notices, does that mean we're not going to get them until at least October?
No, that doesn't mean that.
Not now that we've talked to
He
the
hasn't
building
sent them out
inspector.
yet.
Right. He hasn't sent them out yet, but he doesn't think that you're on the list.
So, but he can send them out anytime during the year?
He can, yes, sir. If you're on the list, or if something happened, if this, you mentioned 1980, you became a condo in 1980. If they discover, it's supposed to be the life of the building,
Had to be certified in 80 to become a condo, right?
right? But if
We bought in '79, and I think we were at the beginning.
at the beginning,
Yeah.
yeah.
They only want to know how the actual physical building is.
Building is, and I'm telling you, it was way before 80, and I could catch up with you.
Can we call it?
Two of our buildings, Heidelberg and Yorkshire,
Uh-huh.
if you look, you will see concrete deterioration on a number of the balconies.
Yeah.
But you mentioned falling concrete and
Falling,
falling
falling.
wood, and a number of us, falling, and a number of us,
Falling. S-P-A-L-L.
oh, okay.
Falling.
Not
Falling.
falling.
I can show you a picture in the report of what I'm talking
A
about.
number of us walk the property
Yeah.
frequently, and we never see concrete or wood or anything, that has actually come off the buildings on the ground. So
Well,
I'm
you
wondering-
have evidence that it has fallen. Some of it has fallen off.
Absolutely, it has fallen.
Yeah.
Many of them had to be repaired several years ago.
Yeah. And I saw some, in that report, I saw some bad repairs too that are reoccurring. And that's, back in the 80s, we allowed a lot of repairs that, they didn't quite go in there far enough. It's like a cancer. They gotta clear that rust out of there and treat that reinforcement rod very well with sandblasting it and treating it before they can make the repair. Back then, they didn't do that process all the time.
You also mentioned structural and electrical issues.
Yes, sir.
And I'm wondering about plumbing issues. Is plumbing not something?
That's not part of your recertification, okay? But it is part of that section I just read to you about maintenance, property maintenance, because it is health safety and life safety. It's something that you're required to maintain and keep up to date. It's not part of the 40-year recertification, though. Yes, sir.
As far as I know, most associations in South Florida are in trouble anyway because of the number of people not paying, and that's,
Yes,
started
yes.
in 2008.
Yeah.
You had certifications, let's say in 2010, 11, and 12 for a number of condos here and there. If they don't have money, what really happens? It's not your department necessarily, but I know you can answer.
I can tell you what they do in Dade County, okay? If you don't address your issues and you don't address the recertifications, it ends up in unsafe structures.
What did you say?
Unsafe structures.
And at that point, what happens?
Well, it goes in front of the Unsafe Structures Board, you're issued a unsafe structures notice, and you have so many days to either make the repairs or demolish the building.
How long does that process take?
It varies. I had one building that 4 of the walls of one part of the building had already collapsed, and it took me probably 8 months to take it to unsafe structures and get the building condemned. It was right on the beach. It had been hit by a hurricane and then again by a tornado.
Can I ask
Yeah.
a question? We're all interested in all these specific entities that you're talking about. I'd like to change the tenor of the conversation
Okay?
and ask you a specific question. We spent a lot of money to have an engineering report compiled.
Yes,
You have
sir.
vast experience as a building person. Are you familiar with the entity of Criterium Engineers? And
I
can you
am.
tell us anything about them?
I am familiar with them. Because when I first got down to Sunny Isles Beach, I was involved with a 40-year recertification that they had done. And I met the principal, and the building's still there today. Since then, they've had another recertification. But there was a short period of time that Criterium has done a lot of concrete restoration in the city of Sunny Isles Beach on the high rises. And there was a period of time when the city, back in 2008, they reduced me to part-time because of, the economy and everything, and a couple other reasons. But I shut one of the city jobs down. And our city engineering department tore everything out of a park and cut all the trees down and everything without any permits. And so I stopped their job. And so I was put on part-time for a while. And after the city fathers realized that I was just looking for the protection of the city, they put me back on full-time. But that was quite an adventure. But during that period of time, I had to do some consulting work, and I did do some consulting work with the Criterion, and they're a fine company.
A fine company?
Yes.
Have they been in business a long time?
Well, I know they've been in business since 1999 when I was dealing with that 40-year certification down in Dade County.
Fine, thank you.
Okay?
Clay?
Yes.
Now, when you said the 40-year certification is about safety,
Life safety in structural and electrical.
okay, so it's not just a matter of there's a recommendation, and if we don't do it, then we don't do it, but that the buildings could be condemned if it's not taken care of?
Yes.
Possibly, would there be a huge fine that went with it, or just, you just have to get it up to code to be livable?
Well, what this code here says, and I'm going to leave this with Jason so you can have it to make copies for everybody. Oops. And I'm gonna leave Jason the building official's name and the address and everything to your building official here in town. I did talk to him, and I told him I was coming out to talk to you folks. Go back to your question now. If you don't do anything about it, you're subject to going, to fines. You're subject to fines. You're subject to go into their unsafe structures board. But my concern has always been safety. That's why I refused to set those trusses back then. It turned out it probably saved my life, you know?
Now,
But
yeah, I guess the other
I look
question-
for and I think that's what any professional engineer looks for, is the life safety and the building safety of your building, for your owners.
The other question, when you said reinforcement bars, is that the same thing as rebar?
Rebar.
Okay. thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Again, from your experience, is there a possibility of some negotiation, meaning that this you gotta do right away because the sky's gonna fall, this you could do a little later? Have you seen anything like this being done?
Well,
Or is it like?
I
a
can't
one-shot?
speak for your building official, okay?
Okay,
That's something that you'll have to address to him.
speak for yourself.
I'm speaking for myself. I have had some, because I deal in a lot of high rises.
Okay.
When I site a building, I give them 90 days to get that report. And then if they have issues, which most of my buildings have issues, they end up with completely rebuilding all the balconies or whatever. And what I do is I gauge that on the building permit that we have to issue, the length of time it's going to take to get that permit complete. So in most cases, if they come in, they get their permits, they get their recertification going, and you know, and if you have a lot of repair work, it's going to go beyond 100. In Dade County, it's 150 days. In Broward County, they give you 180 days. It's going to go beyond that. But the point is, you have to address it. If the building official sees that you're addressing it and you get your permits, you got like 180 days before a permit expires between inspections. So I have a building in Sunny Isles Beach that's been going on for over a year. But they have their permits, they have their engineering, and I get my bi-weekly reports, and they're making it's requiring a lot of repair. You know, they had to cut most of the balconies back to zero and start from fresh. And like I said, Criterion is doing some of the buildings in Sunny Isles.
Excuse me, those are external balconies though, right?
Yes.
These in this development are internal balconies.
Some of them are external.
Not out here, not here.
Well,
They're open to the elements.
they're open to the elements.
No, but they're not sticking out from the building.
No, but they're open to the
So they're
elements. Yeah, 'cause
supported
that's,
on three
I've
sides.
seen in the report here that you have a lot of spalling concrete on
So,
those balconies.
It's got
You said
screens, it's got
earlier, if I could
screens.
ask-
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Oh, do you have
It's got
screens on your
but it's
balconies?
still open to it's still
Yeah.
considered an open
Yeah.
balcony. You just have screens over them.
No, it said they're supported.
It's supported on three sides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Here,
I understand that.
what he's used to dealing with at the beach is a balcony that sticks out from the building.
I have one building, if you're saying you have enclosed balconies, screen porches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one building in Sunny Isles Beach when I first got down there in 1999 that had all enclosed screen balconies. And that got hit worse than any building I've ever seen.
It's on the
That
beach.
building, we had to end up replacing every single balcony on that building.
May I ask you one more question, and then I want to ask another. The engineering report, do you know the engineers?
Yes, sir.
This engineering firm?
Yes, I do.
You do know these engineers?
I know almost every engineer. in the
Gotcha,
state of
great.
Florida.
And you've worked with them before?
I have, yes.
And you spent a couple hours reading the report?
I did.
And would you say that after reading the report, that after you read that, it poses an imminent threat?
Life
life
safety threat to
safety.
your building. I do.
Imminent threat?
An imminent threat. In the event that we're gonna be coming into hurricane season.
Uh-huh. We had a
Yeah.
hurricane here.
I know, I had to replace my roof on my house, which is just east of you,
Right.
Hurricane Wilma. But, the way you have rotted, fascia, you have rotted soffits, cracked soffits, all that is an imminent threat to you. If your buildings are not in proper repair, you know, it's a life safety issue. Something that I feel you should probably start addressing. And the sooner you address it, the safer your buildings are gonna be. And if you know you're gonna be having to address it with your 40-year recertification, I'm just saying, when are you gonna do it, you know? I always encourage people to be proactive, and I know it's a big cost. It's a big problem for all, especially condominium owners, because, you know, you get assessed and all that.
How many buildings, roofs in here do you think need to be repaired?
In the report, I think they've mentioned 3 or 4 that could possibly need repaired.
And how about the balconies?
Replaced.
How about the balconies? How many they were?
Every building had some bad balconies.
We had 2 buildings completely redone 4 years ago.
I saw some of that that repair that
And that was not a good
done.
repair?
Most of it wasn't. You know, I'm looking at that report. I'm not saying most of it, but
I understand.
I saw some bad repairs there.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to know, actually, this is a better question for Mark or Jason.
Uh-huh.
When will we, the membership, get our copies of this engineering report?
That I can't tell you.
Can anyone answer that?
We can speak to that.
No, I can speak about that. Once it becomes official association, you can request it, but it's 25 cents a page, and it's this thick. This isn't something that gets, it cost us over $50 to make a book. So this is gonna be, the committee will be able to look at it. If somebody doesn't wanna pay for a copy, they can come into the office and look through it, just like you would the election material. You know, that can't be copied. So if anything that you request, you would have to pay the copies, but if not, you can certainly come to the office
That's
and
the
look through it.
that's
This is the report.
actual engineering
This is the report.
report that you have in your head.
Yes,
And that, we paid $22,000 for that?
yes.
Before they even asked us to,
I'm sorry?
before they asked us to recertify, we went out and got that report?
Yes.
And why did we do that?
Because we knew that we knew the first structure
like
was
we
done in
don't know anything.
71. What are you talking about? We knew the first structure, 71, 72. It's 2013. So we went
We were
and,
just talking about 1980.
no, that's a possibility. That's not, he didn't say that it was going to be 1980.
I
He
didn't
said
say
it's
it
a
either.
possibility. But it's also a possibility that we're a year late.
But they
The
haven't cited
possibilities
us.
are, I'm sorry?
They haven't cited us yet, so the management company decided that this was.
No, it went to the board and the board decided it.
Board decided.
I can give you the minutes. It was in April
From-
or May of last year.
I
A
can-
request for the management
Does the
company.
building department come out and do their own inspection, or are they relying on something like this?
They have to rely on this. They have, because it
That's what they
says
asked
specifically in that adopted code that it has to be done by a professional engineer or a registered architect. And it has to be done that way.
And is it the responsibility of the building owners to go out and get that and turn it over?
Yes, yes it is. And there's no other way to do it.
Well, aside from any regulations, safety is the number one concern.
Safety is the number one concern.
Timing to me means nothing.
Pardon me?
Timing to me means nothing. If
It's
that
a safety.
engineering report is accurate, and it gets down to which buildings need
Yeah.
what action.
You know, if we get hit by a major storm, you know, we're all gonna have damage. But I think your buildings are vulnerable, from what I've experienced in my life. All buildings are vulnerable, but you're making your buildings are more vulnerable than they should be, is my
Let me
opinion.
ask you a question. We know that the buildings are vulnerable and they need to be repaired based on that report that is there. We accept that. The thing the process here is the actual certification date. We're not sure that the building was certified when it became a condo.
Had to be.
So it's our prioritizing when and how the work
Yeah.
gets done is if the building was certified in the 80s, then the 40-year certification is really not right now, but we should still do that work and we would still have
Right.
time. And we would not be penalized by the state or the city or the county right now. So can someone find out if there was a certification that was done
That's what,
in the 80s, maybe
that's what you need,
Jason's
for-
office?
somebody needs to
And
do with
then we would still,
Broward County.
we know that the work still
Yeah.
has to get done, and we respect that, but it would buy us more time instead of trying now to find money to do all this work immediately, when we could have a better prioritization with regards to getting the work done.
This is
Well-
a huge property, and 180 days may not be reasonable.
I will say one thing, I'll answer directly to that question. Yes, Mr. Parker did explain that he spoke with our building official. That was an unofficial conversation. So you have to understand, if I go to your building, you need to understand why this wasn't done that way. I go to the building department, not knowing them, no relationship. If it is passed, they're gonna cite you immediately. He's giving us an indication, an unofficial indication of, no, he didn't think that it was on the list right now because of his relationship with that person. And it could be from anywhere from 71 to possibly 80, as you're mentioning. So either you're late and we lucked out, or we have a little time.
But
Now, we can
regardless-
wait, I'm gonna finish answering. We can discuss me calling. I would never do that without somebody instructing me to call the city and alert them to the 40-year. I'll be happy to do that,
No.
but I want to be instructed to do
Jason,
that.
that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Regardless, we are working with structures that are deemed unsafe, and we
Yeah.
have to get them fixed regardless.
Yes.
Now, what we're trying to understand
Yeah.
is the time frame in which we can get the most pressing ones done and prioritize the list and work along. If the city has screwed up and not done we are here and they haven't sent out their list, then it only, I think, would be better for them to work with us, since they've already made a mistake, and not send us a list. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm just asking. But if we're going around with our, like hens with our heads chopped off for something that might not even be in a 40-year certification.
Can I interject something? I want to just tell you this is a possibility, and if you would like, I can, Jason and I can call over to the Board of Rules and Appeals and look. They started doing this in 2006. And it's a possibility that you were cited beforehand, just haven't been cited yet. If you would like, I'll try to get the previous, from 2006 on, get the list that Broward County published to see if you were on any of those lists. And I'll be glad to do that for you, and I'll forward it to Jason and see if, that way you can see if you were ever on a previous list. I do know it was.
Public record of certification?
They do have public records. I don't know how well the public records at Lauderhill are. I really don't. But they, we keep public records. And, every building official is obligated to keep all the public records of a job.
Right. It ought to be able to probably
Yeah.
on the internet.
Mr. Chairman?
But I can do that at no risk to you guys and get the list.
To me, Charles. Mr. Parker, I have another question.
Yes, sir.
Given the fact that we've already had an engineering study performed,
Yes, sir.
by, according to you at least, a reputable concern,
Yes, sir.
and for some happenstance, a certain amount of time goes by, let's make it a few years, before we're cited, if we choose to wait that long. What will then happen to this particular, the efficacy of this particular report? Will it have to be repeated?
I would say it probably would. 2 years that would have gone by and you would have had further depletion of your structural elements. I don't know, that would be up to that engineering group, whether or not they would use that report. Because you have time.
Since all this is new,
I don't know, I can't answer.
you can't answer the question.
It'd be up to that engineer whether or not he could take that report and utilize it for the.
I understand, thank you. Charlie?